Good evening. This is Dorothy Boyd. Lesson 4 of our Pacesetter. Happy Memorial Day weekend to all of you. I know many people are probably rushing to get out of town on some special occasion, so we've probably got a lot of playback people. But I'm excited to pick up where we left off last week, and I want to thank you for your time. I hope this has been a tremendous investment for you in your future and in your business. And I thank you for joining us. I want to begin by reminding you to turn in your point sheet by midnight tonight if you want to be included in the recognition for Friday. I finally looked back at my original flyer and saw that we would recognize the top 10 consultants and directors, but prizes go to the top 3 in both groups. If you don't have everything turned in for last week on time by tonight, no worries. You can catch up over the Memorial Day weekend and all next week while I'm in Rome. We won't have a lesson next Thursday night. Obviously, I'll be out of the country, but we will have a final bonus lesson 2 weeks from tonight on June 7th. So while we will post our month-to-date recognition tomorrow on Facebook, there won't be another post next week. What we'll do is give you an actual 12 days from tonight to finish up all the lessons. And as long as you get whatever you have finished turned in by no later than Tuesday, the 5th of June, if you actually turn in all 4 lessons, you'll get credit for having graduated and completed all 4. And then again, we will recognize our top achievers by name on that call. I'd love to recognize everybody that turns in all 4 lessons, and hopefully my webmistress will be able to get that for me. Now, only your point sheet goes to me. All the supporting documents like your time study, your weekly plan sheet, your weekly accomplishment sheet, your pondered pink sheets, things like that would go directly to your sales director, unless you are a sales director and you choose to voluntarily turn those into me. I welcome any of those that you want to turn into me. I want to also congratulate Sales Director Paige Fuller and Beauty Consultant Terry Huggins, who are currently at the top of both scoreboards. So good for you from the first 2 lessons. Unbeknownst to me at the time, last week, at the very tail end of our lesson, when I went to the homework, the recording feature cut off. I think what I did was when I went to share the screen, I must have hit the pause or stop button by error. So I want to pop up in that screen again, make sure everybody's up to speed on homework for last week, homework for this week. We'll go ahead and get that done. And I'm going to be really careful about hitting the share screen button this time. All right, so let me give me the share screen button again. Here we go. All right, so if we go into boydarea.com and open up the Pacesetter page, what you see on there is this is last week's homework lesson, homework assignment lesson 3, ending May 23rd. So this ended yesterday, and this is the one you're turning in by midnight tonight. One of the bonuses on that is a confidential consultant finances survey, which is right up here. If you did not get that done, you can do it by June 4th and turn it into your sales director or me and still get the credit for it. So if it's not listed as a bonus on the week that you're actually turning it in, just write it in. But you only give yourself credit for filling this out once, not more than once, okay? And then here is the homework lesson that starts today and goes, technically for another week through May 30th, through the end of the month, but you've got until June 4th to turn it in. All right, so it's really pretty simple. It's not too complicated. Sales directors, your confidential consultant finances survey actually has a 3rd page, and you would need to go into the director section of boydarea.com, which if you go back to the home page, you will see up here where it says director training. You will click here to find your director's one, and you would need the special director's login and password. All right, so end of our sharing for now. All right, so no lesson next week, but we will have the bonus lesson with Leanne Smith on June 7th, and that gives you an extra 5 days of grace to catch up on any assignments you may have fallen behind on. So just write yourself a note. You can turn them in anytime between May 31st and June 5th, or June 1st and 5th. And tonight this is actually lesson 4, and we're going to keep on the treasurer's hat for most of the evening and talk about what to do with the money when it hits and what not to do. Last week, we identified, or at least approximated, what your individual full store dollar amount needs to be, your full inventory. And if for some reason you didn't fill out that worksheet, or were confused, or don't know what I'm talking about, this is something that a conversation you can have with your sales director to identify what that is. Because if you talk to 10 different beauty consultants, you're going to get 10 different answers on that. It's very much customized. For most people, a full store is going to range between $2,000 for wholesale and $4,000 wholesale for 90% of you. Okay, so in that range. And it's a variable based upon how much activity you do with your business, what your commitment level is to that, and the size of your customer base. All of those are individual variables. Now, we did not talk about what your confidence level is about inventory, or what your access is to money, because those things are emotional. And remember, we've built an emotional firewall between you and your money. Remember that? So how are those firewalls holding up, people? You starting to practice that mental and emotional separation between you and the money? Have you taken the time to make sure that they are practically separated in separate accounts? I hope so. If you haven't, then again, you've still got time to do that. But practically speaking, you do have a full inventory number. Mine, for many, many years, as I would go and do my taxes year after year, probably my last 10 years as a sales director, it was very consistent. It was around 4,500 wholesale, 9,000 retail. Now, at that time, I was an elite executive senior sales director. I had a large customer base, over, probably, over 100 customers, probably drawing on the product. I was still holding appointments. And probably my last 10 years before becoming a national, every year when I would do my taxes, it was in that 4,200 to 4,800 range, and, just kind of varied based upon when I took, what my shelves were looking like at the moment. But just as proof that a full inventory is variable, back in 1982, when I started, my full store was half that much. It was about 2,200. And through the 80s, it was in the 2,500 to 3,000s. Once we got up into the 90s, it was in the 3,500 to 4,000 range. And so as our prices have gone up, our product line has expanded, my inventory, my customer base grew, so has my needed inventory amount. And so since becoming a national, since I haven't been holding appointments and my time and energy has been elsewhere, my customer base has gotten smaller. Just natural attrition has taken over. Good grief, I've been doing this for 36 years. I've had a lot of customers who've passed away. When you're my age, that happens. And so my client base has shrunk. And so now I maintain a smaller amount of inventory than I did 10 years ago. It's individual. And the point I want you to hear is not necessarily my dollar amount, but that your individual store size needs to be known. It needs to be respected. And it needs to be protected as if an alligator was guarding it. If you listen to the audio by Amy Kemp before we started the class, I posted it in our Voxer group and also in our Facebook page. She talked about the goose that laid the golden egg. And our goose is really a three-legged stool. And it's made up of your health, your capacity. You've got 2 arms, 2 legs, eyes that see, ears that hear, the ability to put your starter kit on your shoulders and head out the door. Your capacity to work is one leg of the stool. Your capacity to sell, which has to do with skills and emotional management and the ability to book the appointments, go out, do a great presentation, connect with your customers, share the product, manage the transaction, service the customer, You know, you can call all that the skills end of being the beauty consultant. And then the other part of the three-legged stool is your inventory itself. If you have too little inventory, you'll know it because you're always product starved and scrambling to fill orders. And you're working a whole lot harder physically than the gal who has a full store, and you're working less profitably. I had to start that way, and some people do. But you don't need to stay that way. You can get out of that situation very quickly if you want to. I did, and I'll tell you how in a minute. If you have too much inventory on the shelf and you're engaged in what Leanne Smith refers to as profitless spending, and hopefully we'll have time to come back to that later, frankly, your goose is too fat. He's overfed. All right. And so you want to have integrity with your money, because if you don't have integrity with your money, then it's very hard to build a team and to feel proud of what you're doing. I know a lot of times our approach to money or wealth, if you will, is, gosh, if I just had more, I'd be okay, you know? As Andy Stanley said last week in that sermon I saw, and I posted in our Facebook group, there is a connection between money and happiness, or money and success, but it's not more, it's managed. So whether you have a lot or a little inventory right now, whether you have a lot or a little cash on hand right now, whether you have a big cash flow or a small one in Mary Kay, is not really all that important, truly. What's important is that you manage what you do have. And if you manage what you do have well, then you're positioning yourself to be able to create more. So we have to manage it first, then we can put ourselves in a position to get more. So let's talk about what to do with that money first. When you look at the total balance in your Mary Kay bank account, it's important not to go feeling filthy rich and making the assumption that the total balance there is all for your consumption, okay? So don't make the assumption that the total balance is all for your consumption, because nothing could be further from the truth. Remember last week I said, that's not your money. That's your business's money. Some of it is profit, some of it is not profit. And of that is profit, some of the profit perhaps can be paid as a wage, but this may not be the time to do it. So I'm going to really break that down for you so that you're crystal clear on it. Again, that balance that's in your bank account is business income. And you've been wise to put it all in one place, separate from personal funds. And so if you've resisted the urge to commingle your funds this week and you've got them completely separated, kudos to you. In order to manage the money well, first, you have to separate it. Then once it's separate, you look at that balance, and you can really just do this, open up your bank balance and do this on a Post-it note. It's that simple. You need to identify on paper what that balance represents. And when I say literally, I do this on a Post-it note and tack it into my check register. Sometimes I do. If I have any question marks about it, or if the balance is really big and I'm starting to get excited and feeling filthy rich, I certainly break it down just to bring it to conscious level. Now, Dorothy, don't go getting all excited. This is not all your money here. So let's say that you're currently looking at a balance of $1,000. Now you may be looking at a balance of $100. It doesn't matter. I can do math in my head real easily with 1,000. So that's what we're going to do. If you're looking at a balance of $1,000, 50%, and these percentages are what's important right now. 50%, or in this case, $500, represents IRF. Inventory replacement funds. Inventory replacement funds. That represents the product that went home off of your shelf into your customers' Mary Kay bags and into their homes. Your inventory has been depleted by that much, and you will need to take that much and order the product back to replace on your shelf what you sold. It's that simple. 10% of that balance, or in this case, 10% of $1,000 is $100, is going to be used for two things. Section 2 supplies, that's your business supplies, sales aids, skincare class supplies, literature, everything on Section 2 that you consumed in the process of selling that product that needs to be replaced. Sales tickets, lookbooks, samples, whatever. And also, it may be some more IRF. If you had a party and your hostess got free product as an incentive for having her friends over and hostess credit, that is also product that needs to be replaced. So part of it's going to be used for Section 2 if you had parties where you gave away hostess credit, or if for any reason you ran a discount on the product. Now, y'all know, if you've been in my national area very long, I do not like hearing beauty consultants discounting the product. But I know sometimes it does happen. And so the IRF in that case would have to cover any discounts or free products you might have given away as hostess gifts. And then the 40%, or in this case, $400, is the profit, the gross profit. Now, gross profit is the difference between the wholesale and the retail minus the cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold is what did it cost you to sell that product? Well, that's the 10%. It cost you in some supplies and it cost you in some freebies. All right. So the 600 is the cost of goods sold. 500 bought the product. The 100 was the cost of doing business to get the product sold. And then the 400 is the gross profit. What are you going to do with the gross profit, the 40%? So this is what we're going to break down. Here's my recommended dues, Dorothy's dues, in order of importance or priority. All right. If your inventory is below full store, you have too small of an inventory. For example, you'll say your full store is 3,600 and you're sitting on 1,200 or 1,800. At this point, your inventory is it's not adequate yet. You're still product starved, you're still running out of product, you're having to go back and deliver, so forth and so on, okay? If you have too small of an inventory, I recommend that you reinvest as much of that 40% as you can in more inventory, Section 1 inventory. This expands the size and scope of your inventory, obviously. Now, if you use a Mary Kay MK Connections Visa to place the order, you can also get a 3% cash back on the order size. And ladies, that really adds up. All right. Now, if you can't qualify for the Mary Kay card, there may be another card that you can get. You can go to Credit Karma and see if you can get a cashback card so that you can be earning money every time you place an order in terms of cashback. If you don't have a cashback card that you can be disciplined with, or if you're just not good with credit cards. I mean, every time you get one, you tend to run it up. You know, you're not disciplined with credit cards. You need to operate using a debit card that is on that business account, and you're placing the order and using the debit card for the from funds that you've already sold that are already in the account is what's paying for the new order. So you're not putting new orders on a credit card, you're putting orders on the debit card being paid for by 40% profit from sales of the product that you made last week, last month, whatever. And I suggest that you keep honoring this is your first priority till you get to a full store. All right? And reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting. And postpone all the other things on the list that I'm about to tell you as what you can do with the 40%, if you can. Oh my goodness, where'd y'all go? Okay. The second priority is if you still have an original loan or line of credit from your initial order, then you want to start paying it off from the 40%. But if you have less than a full store, for now, keep reinvesting to build to your full store and just make minimum payments on it for a while. Then when you get to a full store, take the 40% and pay off the loan or line of credit quickly on the initial order. All right, and we'll say that again. If you're building your inventory, build your inventory first and just make minimum payments monthly on the original loan or line of credit so that you can get to a full store real fast. And then as soon as you get to a full store, use the whole 40% profit and pay off your existing original loan or line of credit really quickly. And so then what you will have is a full store and no loan or line of credit and a 40% profit that's pure. Do y'all follow that? Not if you do. Okay. Keep in mind that interest paid on loans or lines of credit used exclusively for business are tax deductible. Now, another thing that I recommend you do with a little bit of that 40% is to set aside part of it to invest in your Mary Kay education. So that when it comes time to register for seminar or register for fall retreat or register for top 5 or register for a local workshop, you've got some money over in the savings account that you can invest. So you might take 5% or 10% and pull it over into your savings account to save and invest in you and your future and in your education. So after you have built your inventory, after you have paid off your original loan or line of credit, and certainly as you are continuing to pull a small portion over, and you can use the transfer button for this, just transfer, say 10%, so you might transfer $100 over into your savings account, and you might pay $100 on your original loan line of credit, and you might take $200 and reinvest in inventory. There would be an example there for you. But after you've done the other 3, then you can start writing yourself a paycheck, a wage. And then when you do that, celebrate depositing your net profit check into your personal bank account as income from your business. So you're writing a check from yourself to yourself, from your business account to yourself, and depositing over in your personal account. That is your money. That's yours. Yay! There's your wage. Now, actually, it's all God's money. So be mindful of good stewardship guidelines when you get it over there, okay? Good financial stewardship guidelines. This is the figure you tithe from if you're a tither. This is the figure you pull some into your personal savings from. And this is the figure that after you've tithed and after you've saved, you live on the rest, all right? Now, I'm often asked, how long is it going to take me to get to a full inventory if I'm reinvesting and reinvesting? How long is that going to take? Well, it depends upon your individual variables again. It could take weeks, it could take months, it could take years. It just depends upon how many appointments you're holding and how often. So the real key is how much time is there elapsing between your parties? That'll tell you more than anything else, okay? If it's just a day or 2 between each party, you'll get it booked real fast. If it's a month or 2 between each party, it's going to take years, all right? If it's a week or 2 between each party, it's liable to take months. If it's a day or 2 between each party, it's going to take weeks. If it's a month or 2 between each party, it's going to take years. And if you're not holding parties at all, who knows, all right? But it also depends on your willingness to hustle and get out there and sell that product. You know, selling gift baskets and being very conscientious with your reorder business. You know, the preferred customer program lookbooks just dropped. You know, how diligent are you to hustle and call every one of those and leave a high energy voicemail, a scripted, well scripted, high energy voicemail, and follow that up with a text to everyone that you enrolled. You know, if you're willing to hustle and sell the product, You know, not only was I holding 3 or 4 parties a week, but when I would have a postponement, at least 1 2-hour night a week, and as my customer base grew, it grew to more than 1 2-hour time frame. I was on the phone calling customers for reorders, and I could sell as much in a 2-hour reorder session on the phone as I did at a party. So that begins to become a factor too. And so each story about building inventory is different. As I said, you talk to 10 different consultants, you get 10 different stories. So here's mine real quick. I started my business with a small bank loan because it's all that I could qualify for at the time. And that allowed me to place an initial inventory order that was about 1/3 of my full store. Okay? It was about 1/3 of what would represent a full store. So I had some reinvesting to do, no question about that. I had a loan. We couldn't do credit cards back then or lines of credit. It was a bank loan, and my bank loan payment was $65. Now that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but to me it was a lot because I didn't have the extra $65. And just to kind of put things comparatively speaking for you, I've showed y'all the picture of that little house I lived in when we started, and my house note was $348. So this 65 was a lot, and I was scared I wouldn't be able to pay it. But my director said, just make sure your first party every month that you take $65 from the first party and you make that loan payment. And I owed it for 12 months, and then it was paid, and it was never a problem. Okay, it was never a problem. And so the first party every month paid that. I was never late. It wasn't an issue. Okay, so I worked hard week in, week out all summer. I started about this time of year. And I did about 40 parties that summer. I figure I put in about 400 hours on my Mary Kay business, and did not take a wage. So basically worked about 400 hours on my business that summer, did not take a wage on it. My profit was there. It was just in pink jars and bottles. It wasn't in cash. And so my inventory was building. And so while I was very tempted to reward myself financially that summer, because let me tell you, I was working hard, I had to celebrate watching my shelves grow and see that I was making a profit. I just wasn't taking a profit. So there's a difference in making a profit and taking a profit. And so not only was I, each time I would reinvest and reorder, there would be more product on the shelf and more product on the shelf, and I was building a customer base. And obviously I was building a great big fat star consultant order that quarter. So that big fat star status had to be a point of pride for me. But once I had the closet full, then I knew that I would have the capacity to say goodbye to my regular paycheck. And when I could say goodbye to a regular paycheck from an employer, then that was going to free up my time and my energy to truly make as much money as I was smart enough to make. Because what were the three legs of that stool? I had a full store. That was done. I had held 40 parties, so I certainly had the capacity to get out and hold parties. And what was my third part of the goose? I've forgotten it already. What's my third leg?
Inventory, Dorothy.
Well, I said that one.
And book, your skills, and work.
Work. Okay. My ability to book. Yeah. I figured out how to book real fast. Thank you, Kathy. I figured out how to book real fast, how to book parties from parties. Whew. Gosh, got to be scripted. Is there any reason why? All right, so back to where we were, back to my story. And that's exactly what I did. I left my teaching position and with the intent to match my teacher take-home pay just on my sales. Now, I didn't have childcare anymore, so I took what I was bringing home from the school. I could subtract my childcare because I would stay home with Carrie during the day, and then when Keith would walk in the door at 5:30 or 6, I'd hand him the infant, and I'd go out the door with my kid, and say, here, supper's ready, see ya. And I would go hold a party, and we tag teamed it all summer long, so I didn't have to pay childcare. And so what happened was I could see that all I had to do was keep doing this. And I was totally just following directions. I was literally painting by number, doing everything my director told me how to do, exactly how she told me how to do it. Okay, I was not trying to say, yeah, but, or that's not me, or those aren't my words, or I can't do it that way. It was just, and you know what? It works. So I encourage you to be too dumb to doubt as well. Now, at the end of my first 12 months in business, my original loan was paid off. Yay. My full inventory was established in 4 months. 4 months. So by September, when I didn't have a teacher check anymore, I was matching my teacher take-home pay on my 40% check. And I had been able to match that teacher take-home pay in months 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 from my personal sales each month by holding 10 parties a month and about another 6 facials. So if you think, well, 3 facials equals a party, it was really an average of what would be about 12 parties a month. I was doing 3 parties a week plus a facial or 2. And I would do a career chat once in a while if it was the weekly challenge. But I wasn't so focused on team building. Not that I didn't want to, it's just that I wasn't doing that part of the 4-point recruiting plan. It wasn't my focus. It could have been if I had been working full circle, but I'm just telling you the honest to gosh truth is I wasn't. And when I would have a postponement, I would call customers for reorders that 2 hours. And if I didn't have a lot of postponements, I would carve out time on, say, a Thursday night or a Saturday morning or a Sunday night to dial for dollars for reorders. So I had a really strong reorder business building. And never once did I ever look back and regret that I had left my job. So between the girl in the mirror, my hands and feet, and the products on the shelf, I never had to be a slave to wages again, or someone else telling me who I worked with, when I worked, how much money I was going to make, whether or not I could be promoted or not. And so honoring priority number 1, getting that inventory built, it represents your capacity for your business to turn a healthy profit. I personally chose profit over wages, and I'm so glad I did. Now, I want you to know, I want to make a big fat note to my happy story here. This desirable outcome was no accident. It was no accident. I asked my sales director to work this math out with me before I held the first party. Early on, before I resigned my teaching position. And based upon how many hours a week I was willing to work, how many parties a week I was willing to hold, and how much time and energy I was willing to invest, she helped me come up with a business plan so that by September, if I worked the plan, I would be on a full store and I could leave. All right. Now, did I believe that I could do it? Not really. But what I did believe in was the product. And I believed in what she told me because everything she told me worked. And so I just had to be obedient to the plan. And by being obedient to the plan, God provided the outcome. I heard a wonderful sermon today from Stephen Furtick. Believe it or not, he did a sermon recently on the parable of the sower. And y'all know I talk about that a lot, and I'll probably talk about it again tonight. But he said in there that obedience is our job and the outcome is God's job. And so I had to be obedient to the plan that she worked up for me. And so was that easy to do? No, it was a lot of hard work, but it was not complicated. It was very simple math. And you can do that too. Now, let's talk about with adequate inventory, with your full store, every effort you make is more efficient. You sell about twice as much, because you don't even want to talk about products that you don't have on your shelf. And if it is on your shelf, you're motivated to talk about it and sell it. Plus, a lot of times they want product and they need it yesterday, but if you don't have it today, they're going to have to order it and wait, they're going to go pick it up at Walgreens on the way home. Okay? So you do sell more, and each sale you have is a more profitable sale. And here's why. Because you're not product starved, you can let that money build up in your account until there's over $450 in there before you order. And once there's over $450 in there, you can place an order of at least 400 wholesale and qualify for Biz Builders bucks. Well, there's an extra $10 wholesale, $20 retail. Okay, it's only $10 or $20. But add that up over 20 or 30 orders during the year, and you see what I mean. Okay. You also, when the company puts out a flash sale, like a BOGO, or they've done a couple of really cool flash sales this spring on specialized products, you've got the money in there to order those products when they're on sale and sell them at the full retail amount. That makes you more profitable. Without an adequate inventory, and I know this from personal experience, you work harder to sell less. And so the percentage of profits that could be going to either build your business or into your family accounts is being eaten up in gasoline. It's being eaten up in more time spent on your business, and time is money. Perhaps more childcare expenses. And then the one I see on the computer, which is a lot of freight charges, where instead of one $600 order or $400 order, I see a consultant has several real tiny orders building up over the month. So there's a freight charge on each one of those. And that's eating up profit. So in other words, the gal with inadequate inventory, which I was that gal for 4 months because I had to be, I did not have any other financial resource to draw on. And so I worked with what I could, and I hustled. And whereas I did not have the availability to go borrow the money, I had to put in that much hustle. So I had a third of an inventory the bank lent me, and I had to put 2/3 of that amount of money in hustle and discipline to get it built. Okay. So where you're short on resources, you got to have that much determination and hustle and discipline. Y'all got it? Without an adequate inventory, you work harder to sell less, and the percentage of profits that could be going to build your business or to your family is being spent on things like freight, gas, additional expenses, because you're not efficient yet. You may be very effective. I was very effective, but I was not efficient. The gal with inadequate inventory is working harder than the gal with a full store for less money. So having that full store gives you a raise. And so that's why the priority is to get the inventory built, then pay off the credit card, because the interest on the credit card is tax deductible. Inventory on hand, I want you to think of it like money in the bank. Inventory on hand is like money in the bank. It's like having a mortgage. It's an appreciating asset. It's not a depreciating asset like a car or furniture. It's an appreciating asset. It has equity in it. As long as you're involved in selling product, it's a constant income stream. Anytime you choose to, you can draw on that equity. So my first question, we're going to take off the treasurer's hat a minute and put on the president's hat for a second. Here's my question. So if you have less than a full inventory right now, Madam President, what are you going to do about it? And if you have way too much inventory on hand, Madam President, what are you going to do about it? All right, here's some don'ts. Let's put the treasurer's hat back on. Some don'ts. First of all, until you have a full store, don't give up your other income streams. If you want to keep your national sales director up at night, you quit your job without a full inventory. Or you quit your other job when your Mary Kay financiers are in a grand mess. Now, that's the kind of thing that'll keep me up at night, okay? Your business cannot legitimately provide you a cash income stream without a full store. Can it provide you an income stream? Yes. It's just not a legitimate one. Find other income streams to tie you over while you build it. That first summer, I had 2 income streams. Number one, I taught art classes in my home that summer, and I cleaned my mother's house once a week. She had a full-time career, and so she hired me to be her housekeeper. Now, I remained her housekeeper till I became a sales director. I remember being over there cleaning that house a lot. So those 2 years I was a beauty consultant, I also cleaned my mother's house. And I did teach art in my home that summer. I think it was just one day a week that I taught art in my home, but it provided a little extra cash flow. And, you know, I don't remember exactly because it was 36 years ago, but I think what I did with that money is actually pay my Mary Kay loan with it, the $65 a month, so that I could reinvest all 40% and get to my full store faster. I think that's what I did. I can't tell you that for sure, but I think that sounds like something I would do. The second thing is never ever treat your business account as a separate personal account. Never ever treat your business account as a separate personal account. All right, I want y'all to hear my heart, hear my heart. No matter what personal bill is looming, you may not simply give yourself permission to spend the money in your product account at will without serious consequences. Giving into that temptation is very great, but it creates a serious setback for you. First of all, it murders the goose that laid the golden egg because it kicks one of the sticks out. And it sets an example for your team members that they can do that too. And guess what? If they're bankrupting themselves, they're not ordering the product they need to, and you're not going to get a love check. So when you go to your business account and go, ooh, the money's sitting here, I can pay that personal bill with it, it really undermines the whole Mary Kay process. What's the Mary Kay process? Well, we outlined that way back in lesson 1. Okay, and I posted it on our Facebook page. So that's why we're spending so much time here, because it's very easy to undermine the process. When people's pink, and while pink check registers are not something I ever have my eyes on, because, I mean, let's just keeping it real here. Getting beauty consultants and sales directors to turn in any kind of accountability, whether it's a weekly accomplishment sheet or a tracking sheet of any kind, that is like pulling teeth. And so they sure aren't showing me their check registers. As a sales director for many, many years, and as a national sales director, if I am talking to someone one-on-one and I take the time to ask enough nosy questions, I can sometimes find myself with a front row seat to unwise business financial practices. And it breaks my heart because it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. You see the disaster coming, and short of what influence you as the leader may try to exercise with the individual, you feel almost powerless to stop it because you don't have your fingers on their purse strings. It's ultimately their choice. And so how does this train wreck in motion look in the real world? Well, it's this simple. Let's say tomorrow your car breaks down and you find out it's going to cost you $800 to get it out of the shop. And you don't have $800 in your personal funds, and your credit cards are maxed out. And so you look in your Mary Kay business bank account, and there sits $825. Or you look on your Mary Kay credit card statement, and you haven't maxed that one out. You've still got $1,000 worth of your credit line, and it's unused. And so what do some do? They use $800. They just pull the $800 out of their Mary Kay business account, or they use their Mary Kay credit card to get the car out of the shop. And they justify this. They call it robbing Peter to pay Paul. And there's all kinds of justifiable things they say. Well, I've got to have a car to go to work. I've got to have a car to get my kids to school. I've got to have a car to go to my parties. And I can always sell more product and pay my account back or pay my credit card off. Okay. I know, but let's talk about the real world consequences of this. All right. So first, I'm going to unmute y'all. And so if you have background noise at your house, you may need to mute yourself individually. But I'm unmuting everybody. So let's have a quick discussion on this. I'll put it on gallery view. All right. So if you were to do that, first of all, what would be the consequence on your inventory? If you went and took the $800 out of your Mary Kay account to pay the car bill, what would be the consequence on the inventory? Who's got an answer?
Well, you wouldn't have it to pay back to the company to reinvest and replace the product that you sold.
Exactly, Andrea. Thank you. So your IRF is gone, right? So your inventory just depleted by that amount. What is the consequence on your ability to write yourself a legitimate paycheck next time you need one?
There's no money in there for that to happen.
Well, and even if there was, what do you need to do to it? What do you need to do with it in order to put yourself in a position to write yourself a wage again?
You need to reinvest.
You got to reinvest again, right? Okay. What is the consequence on your mindset?
Probably stressing about having to put that money back.
Okay. That's not real motivating, is it? No, I tell you something. I'll tell you a big old secret. Remember that last week I told you you need to wear to grow a beard? Here's something I've learned about women. We are not motivated one bit to pay off debt.
That's true.
We are not inspired by that in the least. Okay. And so what happens if we've done it one time? Don't we kind of give ourselves permission to do it again?
Mm-hmm.
What's the consequence on the precedent, the habit? Oh no, I've gotten away with it once. Let's say you do pay back the $800. You do get it paid back. You do hustle, you get it paid back. But aren't you tempted to do that again? Once you
You are.
yeah, once you're on that slippery slope and you've gotten away with it without breaking your leg, hey, I can pull that off again. And then what's the consequence on the team or your unit? If you're a director, your unit, if you're a consultant on your team, maybe they don't see you doing that. Maybe they're not consciously aware of it. But what's the ultimate consequence of that?
You kind of lose your integrity for, giving the example to them.
Okay. Yeah, you do definitely lose some integrity with yourself. And that's a lot more powerful than we realize sometimes. What about, let's say you want to go on target for your car. And in order to go on target for your car, you and your team have to do, I think it's 5,000 wholesale. And so basically you're thinking, okay, I can sell 3,000 myself and cover about 1,500. And if the team does 3,500, we can go on target for our car. But you know what? If you're embezzling from your funds and you want to go on target for your car, or you want to go through TIQ, you bet, or you're already a director and you need that production for a goal, boy, howdy, you better be hoping your team in doing what you're doing, huh?
So true.
Yeah, good luck with that. Because you may think they don't know, but let me tell you, people will be what they see, okay? And you don't realize how it impacts your confidence. And so, and I'll tell you something else. I think it's a secret shame of the Mary Kay Beauty Consultant. Most of the time when she puts herself in those kind of financial straits, maybe her credit card's maxed out or she's embezzling her funds, her husband doesn't know about it. Her director doesn't know about it. Her national doesn't know about it, but she's carrying that secret shame around. And I think it impacts our ability and our desire to share the career. In other words, the whole process tumbles down. Do y'all see this? All for getting the car out of the shop. Now, what did I tell you last week? When you need money for an emergency, you don't go get the money out of your account. You sell the product. You sell the product. You don't borrow the money. You don't borrow it from your business. You don't rob Peter to pay Paul. You sell the product when you need money. All right, here's another don't. Don't keep buying inventory that you don't need once you're at a full store just to finish a car, finish a goal, finish sales court, or meet another recognition deadline. Or buy equipment and supplies for your office, or directors going to the vendors and stocking up on prizes you might sell, because you can justify, well, I can always write it off. But you have to be careful with that. Well, I can always write it off excuse. that we're not engaging in profitless spending. Profitless spending does get some consultants and directors in trouble. And some examples of profitless spending would be, let's say that some gals in your unit are going to go do a bridal fair or a local, maybe a fall festival or something. And in order to rent the table, it's too much for one consultant. So maybe several of you are going to go in together and rent the booth. And then you're going to set up your table and split the time and then split the names. And that's going to bring you leads. So let's say you toss in $75 as your portion, and you're going to get you're going to work the table for maybe 6 hours out of the weekend as your fair share, and you come home with 25 leads, and then you never call the leads. That's profitless spending. Okay. Another example of profitless spending would be participating in the preferred customer program. That's not really, and then never calling your customers back for reorders, just waiting for them to call you. Now that's not profitless spending, because I think some will call you and they're more likely to stay your customer if they're getting that catalog 4 times a year. But according to company statistics, we sell 5 times as much if we initiate a phone call to our customers once the lookbook hits. A high energy, not text, a high energy phone call, even if you get your voicemail, that's scripted, and you leave them a message and then follow it up with a text. If you do that with everyone you enroll in the preferred customer program, you will sell 5 times as much as if you just enroll and never follow up. So that's not profitless spending, but it's almost profitless spending. And another profitless spending is you've got a full store, but you're not writing yourself a paycheck. You're continuing to reinvest. Why are you doing that? Again, what is the consequence on the precedent that sets in terms of your future habits? On your team building, on your confidence about making money if you're not paying yourself a wage, and on the Mary Kay process. And on your emotions, on your integrity with yourself. See, either side of that is a problem. Now, having too much inventory is not nearly as much as a problem as having too little, unless it's put you in a ton of debt. If having too much inventory has you in a lot of debt, then you need a plan to pay that debt off. And, you need to know how long it's going to take you to do that. And, if it took you a while to get in that debt, it may take you a while to get out. As long as you got a plan, just like my director worked out with me, as long as you got a plan and you're willing to be obedient to the plan, you can create the outcome you want. So all is not lost. But what I'm trying to get y'all to do is just to pull your head out of the sand and deal with what is. Because it's easy to err on either side. And I want you to be able to, walk down the middle. So you do have integrity with yourself. And so that the Mary Kay process does work for you as it has worked for me. I've even seen some gals create this gorgeous studio in their homes, and they've just got this tremendous boutique of products, but they're not holding appointments. And it's like, what's the point of having this gorgeous boutique you've created and having all this product if you're not having people over here to try the product? And another example of profitless spending, it's really just kind of getting things out of order. Let's say you have a new team member, and before she places her first order, you're on In Touch showing her where to get business cards and how to sign up for a ProPay account and how to sign up for a personal website. She doesn't need any of that if she doesn't have product to sell. She doesn't need to be spending her cash on hand on business cards, ProPay, and a personal website until after she's placed her initial order, and perhaps after she's placed her second order. At some point she does need to, but she needs to be qualified first before she gets those things. And if she only comes in with an activating order, she doesn't even have inventory yet. She needs to have inventory first. That's the priority, okay? Because I've seen people order business cards, set themselves up on a personal website, get a ProPay account, and never order. Chicken out. Get distracted. Okay, that's profitless spending. Only the wholesale order makes money. Everything else eats profit. Only the Section 1 inventory makes profit. Everything else eats profit. And some of those things are necessary. I do believe you need a personal website. I do believe you need business cards. I do believe you need a ProPay account. I have all those things. It's a matter of what first things first. And while And there's always going to be a cost of doing business. And whether you're a beauty consultant or a sales director, it's a good idea at least once a year to sit down and look at, well, what am I spending money on my business for? And is that bringing me a return on my investment? And a lot of times, if it's not bringing us a return on our investment, it's not that we shouldn't be spending the money. It's that we should be taking more responsibility to do our end of the deal. Like, it's not a bad idea to participate in a bridal fair. Investing the money to participate in a bridal fair is actually a great investment. You get some great leads that way. What you need to take responsibility for to get a return on your investment is calling the leads. Same thing with PCP, all right? And so sales director, I know that we have expenses over and above what beauty consultants do, and I think we need to take a hard look at those. You know, what am I spending for a newsletter? Like, you know, I'm trying to decide now, because I spent a lot of money on 3 newsletters, and go, do I really need to keep sending them in the postal mail? Or is just putting them on the app and the website and emailing them enough? People can open them and look at them in color that way. Do I really need to be spending that money? Am I really getting a good return on my investment? So, you know, it's not that I shouldn't be doing newsletters. It's just, have we advanced far enough that most people have a smart device or a computer now that they can open and look at that thing, and they don't really need to get one in the postal mail anymore? Perhaps we have. Okay, maybe that's where I can save some profit. So see, this kind of putting the president's hat on, thinking about how the money is spending, and then making a decision and saying, okay, Dorothy, beauty consultant, the lookbook just dropped. It's time to call and follow up on your preferred customers. Now, what days in the weekly plan sheet over the next week are you going to do that? Put them in there. Yes, boss. Dorothy, the Mary Kay beauty consultant, says yes to Dorothy, the president. Okay, here's where I'm going to put that on the plan sheet. And yes, on Sunday night and Monday afternoon on Memorial Day, heck, I'm going to do a barbecue sale, and I'm going to call all my customers to get preferred customer, and I'm going to call them on Memorial Day because we're not doing anything at our house. And rather than being out working in the yard, I'm going to call my customers and make a bunch of money on Memorial Day. They're all going to be in a great mood and watch my smoke. Okay, that's how that works. All right, now, a couple of things. Here's another don't. Don't make your customers wait more than 2 or 3 days for product, or you risk losing them to someone who will provide better service than that. It's been said that it takes 5 times as much work to develop a new customer as it does to take good care of an existing one. So it's important to take good care of your existing ones. I do believe in putting all your customers on the preferred customer program and calling and following up with them a minimum of 4 times a year when that lookbook drops. But some people need to be followed up with more than that. And you just need to ask them. You know, this is how I work with most of my clients. You go on my mailing list, which means you'll get a seasonal catalog 4 times a year. There's always a gift with purchase in it, usually a sample. And so don't ever toss that thing. And at that point, you know, when you place an order and it's at least $40, you're going to get some freebies. And so I will, you know, traditionally I like to call and follow up when that catalog hits. Does that work for you, Mary? Or would you prefer to just call me if you need something when the lookbook hits? You know, ask her. Or would you like to be called more often? Is every 3 months often enough? Or would you like to be called more often than that? Or less often? And so you work that out with the individual customer. You write that on the profile card, and that customer follow-up becomes a regular part of what you schedule in to your weekly plan, because it's great money. And let me tell you, you will be paid over and over and over again for years to come for taking good care of your customers. And I've always felt like it was my responsibility to get that product in their hands, whether I deliver it or I ship it, so that they're getting it within 2 to 3 days. Now we have the customer delivery service. We didn't have that back in the day. It's a fairly new thing, but if you're not using the customer delivery service, that's where, when you're an active beauty consultant And as long as you have a ProPay account, those are the two requirements. You have to have a ProPay account and you have to be active, meaning you have to have placed an order of at least $225 either in the current month we're in or one of the prior 2 calendar months. So we're in May. So if in May you've done a $225 or in April you did a $225 or in March you did a $225, you are currently active. We are active for the month our $225 order goes in plus 2 calendar months. As long as you're active and as long as you have a ProPay account. You can place an order of any size for one customer, have it direct shipped to her for $5 shipping. So let's say you have a customer named Joe and she calls and places an order. This is literally what happens in my office. So Joe calls and places an order. If I don't have it on the shelf, we immediately do customer delivery service. Okay? If I have part of it on the shelf, then I'll tell Melissa, either ship part of it from my shelf and do the rest on CDS or do the whole thing on CDS. Just depends. Now, who pays the $5 shipping? Well, for years and years and years, I always paid the shipping until I got to a point where shipping costs really went up, and then I would have some customers that would order one product a month, and the shipping was eating up the whole profit. So many years ago, I told my customers that if they needed me to ship the product, either they could, I would ship the product and it would be free if it was $30 or more. And I've pretty much kept that threshold. As long as the order is at least $30, I'll pay the shipping. It probably should be $40 to $50 today. But generally, most of my customers, when they reorder, they're spending $40 or $50 anyway. And $40 is where the gift with purchase kicks in. So here's the good news. When I became a national sales director, I discovered nationals don't pay shipping. Woohoo! On anything, anytime, we pay no shipping. It's great. But I had all these things in place prior to that. Another thing I learned when my kids were really little, I had them in diapers, and it was like an act of Congress just to get out the door and get a loaf of bread. And I bought this big weatherproof box. I think I got it from the Home Improvements catalog. It's still out there. I've had it like 25 years. And it's on my front porch. And I told my customers if they would come pick up the product, I would pay the sales tax. And so they would order, and here I am with baby slobber all over me. I could just go fill the order, stick it out in the box. I wouldn't put tax on it, so that would make it a straight dollar amount. They would come pick it up, and that gave them what in our areas equal to a 6% discount. So I still have, once they start coming to your house to pick it up, they'll keep doing that. So I almost never deliver product. Everything is shipped or they pick it up. I have a few customers that I deliver just because they happen to live on my beaten path when I run errands, but very few. Another thing about ProPay, it's important that instead of using ProPay funds directly onto an order, and I know a lot of you are probably doing that, there's nothing wrong with that, but there is a better and more profitable way of doing things, okay? As soon as money hits your ProPay account, and is viable, it's no longer pending, transfer it into your Mary Kay checking account. Transfer all ProPay funds into your checking account. All monies that you collect, checks, cash, ProPay funds, get deposited into your Mary Kay account first. So checks are deposited, and I use Snap Deposit. Used to go to the bank 2 or 3 times a week. Now we just use Snap Deposit. It's great. Process a credit card. As soon as products are processed on a credit card, we transfer it from the ProPay account into that checking account. If you take products for personal use, or you take products and you give them as a birthday gift, a Christmas gift, a graduation gift, you put 50% your cost back into your business account. Your cost is 50% plus the tax on the retail value. If you get a recruiting love check, you have it deposited in that account. And here's a sidebar to directors. Have your commission deposited in your business account, not your personal account. And directors, for most of my career, I actually ran 2 checking accounts, one just for product in, product out, and then one for my unit expenses. So I had separate accounts for that. And so I put my director's check in my unit account and simply ran money in, money out for inventory in the other account, okay? And I'm considering doing a bonus Zoom Live for directors on this in mid to late June. So directors, if y'all want it, let me know and I will. And then the important thing is to manage the money well from that account. But why you want to transfer the money from ProPay into your checking account first, there's a couple of reasons why that's a better way of doing things than applying the ProPay funds directly to the order. It's cleaner accounting. Clean accounting is more accurate accounting. It's easier accounting. When accounting gets complicated, that's when we avoid it. Okay? And so it's much cleaner that way and more accurate. The second thing is, again, it goes back to putting your orders on a debit card or a credit card. If it's on a credit card, you can get cash back. You can't get cash back on orders that you move from ProPay into, that you apply from ProPay directly to an order. So it costs you 35 cents to move the money over. You make a whole lot more than that on the cash back on your card. And again, it's cleaner accounting. You don't have some money coming from ProPay and some money going on your debit card. It's clean. The whole order is coming from one place. A $600 order with 3% cash back, that's $18 cash back on a $600 order. That's a lot, y'all. It's over $100 on a $3,600 order. Cash back on your Mary Kay Visa. That's a lot. For people that sell as much as Jill does up here, that 3% cash back on that Mary Kay Visa, I bet that puts hundreds of dollars in her bank account. No kidding. Hundreds of dollars of extra profit. And then the third reason why is that online systems like ProPay and PayPal can be hacked. I don't mean to scare y'all, but I've had my ProPay account hacked twice in 2018. Now, ProPay paid the money back. They finally had to close my ProPay and open up another one, but it was a hassle. And I didn't have that much money in there. It happened over the weekend at like 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, we had processed an order on Friday and I hadn't put it back in there by Monday, and by Monday, all the money was gone. Okay. So, you know, it's more secure that way. And again, as president of your own company, you're the decision maker. You wear the big girl panties here. So, you know, when you're talking about assessing the financial health of your business, 3% here, 2% there, a few dollars here, a few dollars there, it adds up to higher profitability at the end of the year. And so remember, your pink dreams hinge on running a profitable and sustainable business. And so when you say, well, I'm going to watch my nickels and dimes on this, then your dollars will take care of themselves. And when you say, oh, that's just a few dollars, I'm not going to fool with that. You know, okay, you can keep working for somebody else if you want to. But Madam President, you need to be faithful in a little so that you can be blessed with a lot. All right. The money survey that's on your homework. It may be painful to fill that thing out. I just want to tell you, it may feel painful. All right. But I applaud your courage in doing that. Because I want you to think about this. Are your dreams for sale? Are your dreams for sale? Is there anybody that would nod? No, every one of you would say, no, my dreams are not for sale. Then isn't it time to address where your money's going and how you're choosing to spend it? Isn't it time to address how you're managing your business funds? Even if doing so feels painful? Because if you right now say, I'm going to start addressing this, even though it's painful, where will your financial house be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 25 years from now? You see, we don't get credit just for listening to what's a smart thing to do. We get credit for doing the smart thing. And perhaps you're scared because you don't trust yourself. And I understand that. But at least you can't say, I don't know any better anymore. Right? Because you do know better. I meant to tell y'all this story a couple of weeks ago when we had on the secretary's hat, and I forgot it, so I'm going to tell it to you now. A couple of years ago, I went back to Weight Watchers, and it's a great program, by the way. Probably need to go back again, but I was at my first Weight Watchers meeting back after a couple of years, and there was a gentleman there that they brought him up to the front to speak because he had just met his goal. He had lost 30 pounds in 5 months. And so it's very similar to a Mary Kay meeting. The leader said, well, tell us how you did it. And he said, well, I just decided to trust the process and track my points. Now, Weight Watchers is very much a point system, and you have to track everything you eat every day, and then what you eat adds up to certain points. So there's a good bit of, adding up points and accountability. And so basically what he said is, I just decided to trust the process. I didn't trust myself, but I decided to trust the process and track my points every day. And that's why I stand here 30 pounds lighter. Track and trust. Track and trust. And I thought, God, that's just like Mary Kay. There's so many Weight Watchers lessons that are parallel. And I said, it's exactly like us. When you track what you do and you trust the process, it works. So the less you trust yourself, the more you must choose to trust the process. The less you trust yourself, the more important it is to track what you're doing. The less confidence you have, the more important tracking is, whether you're tracking your time or your money. But it's important with both. I had you do a time study to track your time. I'm not going to have you track everything you're spending, but it's a good idea. And if you're in any kind of financial peace class, that's one of the first things they have you do is write down everything you're spending. But the point I want to make, even though I'm not assigning you to write down everything you're spending, I am asking you to do that survey and examine how you're managing the money and get honest with that. And you may need to be accountable to someone else temporarily until you can learn to be accountable to yourself. That's one of the best things about Weight Watchers. I mean, the first thing they do is make you get up there and stand up and weigh yourself. You got to deal with that number every Monday night or whenever you're going. And while it isn't public, it's written down in your book and you're tracking. So, it does make a difference in the choices that you make day in and day out about what you eat and how much exercise you get, knowing that you're going to have to stand up in front on the scales and the next week and they're going to write down what you weigh. And if there's a pretty deep crease in your brain about how you've been spending your time or your money, it's going to take a long time to overcome that crease. And it's okay to be accountable to a trusted person, and that person's probably your sales director in this arena anyway, for a long time until you can rewrite that crease in the brain. It's not that she wants to hold you accountable. It's not something we really enjoy doing. But if you want us to, we're there to be that person looking at the scales for you on a weekly basis, but you have to do it voluntarily. So, unless you turn that survey in, she's not going to be able to help you until you sit down and do the survey, director, and turn it into your national. She's not going to be able to help you create a different outcome. And unless we're highly intentional daily to new behavior, repeating those new habits day in, day out to develop a new muscle memory, we'll automatically default to old habits. We're just human. It's how we're made, and nothing changes unless something changes. So I think what you have to ask yourself is, the way I'm spending my time now, the way I'm managing my money now, if I keep doing it that way and nothing changes, where will I be in my business a year from now? Where will I be in my business 5 years from now? And if you say, in a great place, I feel good about it, then, maybe you don't need to change anything. But if you say, oh, heck no, I don't want to be there, then it becomes a matter of sowing and reaping, because the Bible says we reap what we sow. And if you want to sow a lot of sales this month, you better start sowing some bookings. I mean, if you want to reap a lot of sales at the end of the month, you got to sow some bookings at the beginning of the month, right? If you want to reap sales, if you want to reap a good customer base, you got to sow some calls to those PCP people. If you want to reap a bigger team, you have to sow some career chats. if you want to reap a profitable, sustainable business, you have to sow good business habits. And too often we make those poor decisions out of the tyranny of the urgent. We've got a real quick fix mentality in our society right now. I've got that $800 car payment. I've got to get that car fixed. Or we're starved, so we eat the wrong food, or I've got this end of the month deadline coming up next Thursday, and so I've got to do what I got to do to make it happen. And so what I'm saying is your decisions today are how you sow. And if you sow wisely, you'll reap well. And when you reap well, you'll feel great. If you wait to sow well until you feel great, it doesn't work that way. Sow wisely, reap successfully, feel great. Okay? So the sow wisely has to happen when you're not necessarily feeling so good about it. It's just that the pain of remaining the same has become worse than the pain of change. So you're ready to create a change, and you're ready to look the girl in the mirror, straight in the eye with honesty and say, hey girl, hey Madam President, it's time to create a successful, sustainable business. And you may be thinking, but Dorothy, you're telling me I need to make major decisions that allow me to seize the future, and I'm just trying to survive today. You don't understand. Yes, I do. I've been doing this business since I was 25 and had no money. I've been through every season of life. And for the last 18 of those years, my husband has not worked. And I told y'all prior to that, he was constantly having surgeries and things. I understand. I really, really do. But if you are in a survival mode, all the more reason why you must seize good habits now. Success is a product of sowing and reaping. Today, when you sow a prayer, when you sow quiet time, you reap the capacity to respond appropriately when you get in a stressful situation. What you take in during the quiet time in the mornings, what you give off in the crisis time in the afternoon. I can't imagine that not being the core of my priorities, but I remember a time when it wasn't, and the difference it made. When you sow a full date book, you reap a full checkbook. Full stop, end of story. When you do not sow a full date book, you do not reap a full checkbook. When you sow new faces, you reap going places. When you don't sow new faces, you don't go anywhere. The converse is also true. Directors, if you don't sow bookings with your unit on the front end, you're reaping begging at the end of the month on the back end. I don't think any of us want to do that. When we sow daily tracking, that discipline, we reap confidence and clarity. We reap staying on track. If you say to yourself, well, somehow I fell off track. I just fell off track. I need to get back on track. Guess what? You stop tracking. You either stop tracking or you stop trusting. And for people that have no sowing of tracking, what they reap is confusion, fear, and drifting off track. When we sow a wise example, what we set is a lifestyle of wisdom for those who are watching, whether it's our children, our grandchildren, our team members, our unit members. When we sow foolish habits, we are setting those examples. And so I'm going to kind of close with this. In the Sermon on the Mount, which is in Matthew, I think, John, I can't remember. It's in one of the Gospels. At the end of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus talks about the Beatitudes, how to be happy. And you can listen to Andy Stanley's sermons and get one of these, but there's a parable on the tail end where Jesus says, okay, those of you that just listen to this Sermon on the Mount about what you need to do to be happy, or in our case, be successful, because they are interchangeable. Those of you that hear my words and do what I say are like the wise man who built his house on a rock. And those of you that hear my words and don't don't obey, don't do what I tell you to do, are like the foolish man who built his house on sand. Okay, again, Jesus said, those of you that just heard what I taught you and do what I taught you, you're like the wise man who built his house on a rock. Those of you that heard what I said but don't do it, you're like the foolish man who built his house on sand. Now, both men had a house, and they were fine till a storm came up. When the storm came up, the man who had his house on sand had his house washed away. And the man who had his house built on a rock still had his home. Right? So everything that I've taught you in this Pacesetter, 1, 2, 3, 4, about how to make smart decisions, how to track, how to be organized, how to manage your time, and how to manage your money, are all things that will help you build a pink house on a rock if you are too dumb to doubt me and just do them. I'm only sitting here as a national sales director because I was too dumb to doubt what my director taught me. Even though I was reluctant, even though I was scared, even though many times I was doubtful, even though she had a really different personality from me and a different lifestyle from me, I still said, yes, whatever you say, yes, ma'am, boop, boop. And I was faithful, okay? And you can be too. Everything you ever wanted in this business can be yours. Congratulations to you for being the gal that said yes and got a kit. You know, you're pacing the pack right there, because there's a lot of people that want to do this business, but they're too scared to even sign the agreement and get a kit. You pace the whole pack, just doing that much. But now what you do with that kit is like a magic carpet. It can take you anywhere, to Spain or Maine or Africa, but you must tell it where. So will you let it take you where you've never been before? Or will you buy some drapes to match and use it on your floor? It is all up to you. All right, I'm going to unmute because I'm through with my teaching tonight. And remember, we will get to hear from Leanne Smith for our bonus in 2 weeks. Now we will use a different link. We won't be using the same link anymore. I'll create a new Zoom link just for our bonus night. So just be watching for that in the Facebook group. Are there any questions or comments about anything from tonight's lesson? I apologize for going over, but since it's our last lesson, I needed to finish. So thank you for your patience and the extended time tonight. Any questions or comments that we need to cover tonight?
I had a question.
Who does?
It's Robin.
Robin, there you are. You're up in the dark, sweetie. You got to learn to put a light on yourself. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You're still on.
You said something about if you take products for personal use or gifts, put 50% back into the business account. What did that mean? Okay,
so let's say you go shop at your own store, Robin.
Right.
You pull products off your shelf for your own personal use. The IRF still has to be covered. Otherwise, you've just depleted your inventory.
Okay. All right, so you have to buy that next time you do your order, replace it.
Right.
Okay,
so
got it.
The easiest thing, so if you pull products off your shelf to give to your mom for Mother's Day, or a graduation gift, you need to take your cost and write a check from your personal account to your business account for inventory replacement.
Okay, all right, got it.
That's all that is. Mm-hmm. Remember what I said? Your inventory has to be fiercely protected. To that degree, it needs to be fiercely protected, because you can think, well, just one time, no big deal. But the problem is once you have that mindset that I don't have to replace it, before you know it, your inventory is heavily depleted and you don't know why. So it's just a bad precedent. Okay. Anybody else?
Dorothy, this is Andrea. I had a comment and a quick question.
Okay.
My comment is I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. This has been amazing. I've taken pages and pages of notes and I'm implementing them. And so I am seeing a difference. And so thank you. My question has to go back to, the money practices. And I didn't catch what you said to do when those commission checks get deposited automatically into our account. What are we supposed to do with those?
Are you talking about recruiting commissions?
Well, either the recruiting commissions or, your team commissions. And, the commissions that we get from our team, they get automatically deposited into our account.
Well,
so it goes into my business account, but then
what do you do with
I
it?
just leave it there. What are we supposed to do with it?
It's up to you what to do with it. If you're still building your inventory, I would use it to build inventory. I mean, you go back to those priorities. You build inventory first. If you've already built your inventory, but you haven't paid off your initial loan, pay off your initial loan second.
Okay.
Once you've built your inventory and you've paid off your initial loan or your credit card, or maybe you've accrued more debt to your business. Maybe you went to seminar and never paid that off. So first, build your inventory. Second, pay off any business debt you have. Then third, start drawing a paycheck on it. And the thing about commissions is, it's really pure profit once you've done that. Once you've paid off once you have a full store and you've paid off your debt, commission checks are pure profit. Now, sales directors, that's not true for you necessarily because, you're making so much money, you've got to pull some money over for taxes. But, you could put that money in a savings account, Andrea, and save it to go to seminar. You can, do with it whatever you want to, but you need to handle those first two priorities first.
Okay.
Does that sound like a good, wise answer? And I have a question. How come you're so apple green?
I don't know. I've like adjusted lights and everything here. I have no idea. It's very weird. I promise I'm not really green.
Okay. You're not really Elphaba and Wicked and are really, just doing a little bit too much on that green foundation, I think, Andrea. A little too overboard on the green eyeshadow. Okay. Did anybody else have a question? Or comment?
I just want to say thank you, Dorothy. I appreciate all that you pour out into people. This is Kathy.
Oh, you are so welcome. And thank you for your kind words. And the best thing y'all can do is just be obedient to this process. This is not me talking. I'm just the voice piece to tell you what I've learned from my own experience. It's the Mary Kay process we have to honor. And the best thing you can do for yourself is just honor that process. And then you can come back a year from now or 2 years from now and say, that class was really a touchstone for me. I turned things around. And what happens when you do that is then that flows in to being a better time manager with your family, being a better money manager and financial manager with your family, and being a better decision maker as a wife, a mom, a friend, a daughter. And it's just a life skill that flows into everything you do. And if you do that, then I'll have gotten my joy out of it. But I appreciate y'all for showing up and being out here because, I could see after for those of you that went to Top 5, I did a lot of Zoom lives with a lot of individuals in my own national area, and I just kept seeing the train wreck coming, and I was starting to lose sleep over it. And I said, I have to get out in front of this and teach people, because nobody makes these choices if they knew what the consequences are. They wouldn't keep making those choices. And so I know that education is where it begins. We have to be aware. And once we're aware and we know, then we're accountable to it. So, at this point, it's between you and God. It's between you and your director. But I thank y'all for listening. I thank you for being such great students and for showing up. And hey, if you're in my unit, I'm just a phone call away. I'm just a text message away. I'm just a Vox away to help you take the next step and move in that direction, or you're my Offspring director. And if you're not, then I hope you've got someone you can call and ask and connect with, whether your director's participated in this or not. She may be slow, but let me tell you, she's ahead of you.
So true.
Dorothy.
Okay.
Dorothy,
Dorothy?
This is Barbara Wagner. May I thank you for something, please?
Yes, Barbara, you're next, and then Ruth.
Okay.
Yes, Barbara.
Okay. I want to thank you for inviting adoptees, as you always have with your Go Give Heart, because the gals in my group who've participated in this, here's what they're doing. One of them takes quiet time every morning on her front porch in Savannah. She and her husband listen to your recording every single day. because they felt like they couldn't get enough out of it just listening to it once. And it's revolutionizing their other business, listening to what you've taught about money with Mary Kay. I have other gals who have very long commutes, and they put this in and they listen to it over and over and over and over again. And then they call me and tell me what they're changing, and that's been revolutionary. So I thank you for always including us. It's been such a reminder for me for things I've forgotten to do that I used to do, bad habits that I got into that I'm turning around again. So I so appreciate the time you put into this.
You are quite welcome, Barbara. I love you to pieces. Thank you for giving me that great feedback that people are working it. That is great news. Thank you.
They are working it, yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Ruth, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I agree with Barbara and said thank you very much for allowing us to be part of the Pacesetters group, because even though many of us have been in Mary Kay a long time, we were trained differently in the beginning and or by other people. And so it's always a tweaking and modifying and improving and getting better. And I appreciate the way you think and the way you share and teach. So thank you, thank you. And then my last question is there any homework this week, or are we off?
Oh no, you have a homework list this week. No, you are not off.
I know.
Yeah, way back at the beginning when I was on that page. Hold on, let's make sure we're 100% clear on here.
Some of us do have to sign off, so I thought I better hang on for the homework.
Let's go to everything you need to know. I'm glad you asked, because maybe some others thought that too. No. Here it is. Homework. Thinking for a change. Ending the 30th. Here you go. It's going to look really familiar.
I'm sure.
Okay. So the dates change. It reminds you to turn in all your homework by the 4th. I'm glad you asked, because I forgot about this. Leanne Smith wrote a little booklet called Pursuit of Profit.
Oh, okay.
And I had asked my web mistress to put it up on the site. Let me see if it's up there. It's a pretty big file.
It's here.
It's there? Okay. So you can get a bonus by reading her Pursuit of Profit e-booklet. And it's not real long. I mean, you can read it in the time it takes you to drink a Coke, really. About 30 minutes. And then this is place a May order of at least 60% of whatever your retail sales were in May. So it's doing your RFI order, inventory replacement, IRF order, inventory replacement order at least by the end of the month. Then you get 1,000 points. So I think everything else is the same.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Anything else, people?
Thanks, Barbara.
All right. Yes. Thank you.
Right.
Was there somebody else? Am I just hearing thank yous, or is there something somebody wanted to say specifically?
Thank yous.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful time in Rome.
I will. Thank you, Magda, and everyone else. I will. I'll be thinking of you. I'll post pictures on Facebook, okay?
Okay.
All right. Bye. Love you.
Sayonara.